Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Rikka Yugioh deck profile for January 2025. For those of you that don't know, the Rikka deck was an Xyz plant deck that focused on being able to make use of tributing plant monsters on the field and being able to gain different card effects based on those plant monsters that you tributed, additionally for the card effects of the many different cards we had in the deck, and then also being able to get out the many different rank Rikka monsters in the extra deck, having a wide variety of Xyz monsters to summon out with all the different monsters we have in the main deck as well. So wanted to go for more of a pure variant of the deck. There are Sunvine, Sylvan, you name it, different versions of this deck, but for this one we'll be focusing on as pure of a Rikka build as we could. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck. For the bigger Rikka boss monsters, we run one copy of Rikka, the Snowdrop Fairy, one copy of Mudan, the Rikka Fairy, and one copy of Hellbore, the Rikka Fairy. These are some of the bigger boss monsters, and with some of the plant engines that we do run in the deck, we don't really need the one-of copies of this card. With Snowdrop Fairy Rikka, you can tribute one plant monster, special summon both this card and one other plant monster from your hand, and then you cannot special summon except for plant monsters. You can target one plant monster you control. All plant monsters you currently control become that monster's level until the end of this turn. So this is the adjusted level you can go to use for the different rank Rikka monsters that we run, having a rank 8, 6, and 4 respectively to be able to go into. Having a tribute option to special summon our Mudan, the Rikka Fairy, from our hand, and if it's normal or special summoned by the effect of a plant monster, you can add one Rikka spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So another good target to be able to summon off of just Lone Fire itself. With the last of the bigger boss monsters being Hellbore, the Rikka Fairy, when your opponent activates a monster effect that targets a monster you control while you control a Rikka monster, quick effect, you can tribute this card from your hand or face on the field, negate that effect, and if this card's in the graveyard, you can tribute one plant monster to special summon this card in defense, but banish it when it leaves the field, which you can get around the banish play by obviously just using that Rikka monster for an Xyz summon. And a lot of these tributes can be overlooked and gone into with some other Rikka cards, which we'll go over when we get to the spell lineup. For some of the bigger Rikka numbers that we run the deck, 3 copies of Rikka Petal. During the main phase, you can take one Rikka monster from your deck, except for Rikka Petal, either add to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn, except for plant monsters. And during your opponent's end phase, while this card's in your graveyard, if you control no monsters or all monsters you control are plant monsters, you can special summon this card. So, being able to either set up some Rikka monsters in your graveyard or add other ones to your hand to be able to use, Rikka Petal is just a good setup for that card, because then you get that resource back into the field with this card as well during your opponent's end phase, giving you an additional monster to make use of during the following turn to then either adjust levels for those monsters, have the needed tribute for those cards. They all work very well with this monster. Another 3 of is Rikka Princess, which we also run 3 copies of. During your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand, but while it's face up in the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters except for plant monsters. When your opponent activates a monster effect while you control Rikka monster, you can shuffle this card from your hand or graveyard into the deck to tribute one plant monster to negate that effect. So on top of an easy special summon, you have a monster effect negation card as well to be able to rely on, just be able to summon the Rikka out of the field and then get it back into the deck afterwards. We're also running 3 copies of Primula, the Rikka Fairy. If a monster you control is tributed, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense. You can target 2 plant monsters you control, increase the levels by 2 until the end of this turn. So you can only use this effect of Primula, the Rikka Fairy, once per turn. Having 2 level 4 Primulas means you can either go into Rikka Queen Strenna or raise their levels to go into Kanzashi, the Rikka Queen, or you can also target your 2 plant monsters that are level 6 to then be able to go into Teardrop, the Rikka Queen as well. And then just having a special summon from the hand to once again use with other cards like Rikka Princess's special summon, and then have those 2 monsters for the overlay as well. And then lastly, for our Rikka monsters, 3 copies of Cyclamen, the Rikka Fairy. You can tribute this card or from your hand or face them on the field. Target 2 plant monsters you control, reduce their levels by 2 until the end of this turn. And during the end phase of this card's in the graveyard because it was tributed and sent there, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. Once again, more resources, also being able to use this card for the tribute and then set up onto the field once again, just like our Rikka Peta. This is more or less the setup that you'll use with these plant monsters continuously to be able to always have an Xyz play to go into as well. We run 3 copies of Lone Fire Blossom just because it's a very, very good plant monster, which can grab any of the plant monsters that we mentioned beforehand just by tributing itself. And also for some bigger plant boss monsters, I run the 1 copy of Talia, the Princess of Cherry Blossoms, and the 1 copy of Cherubime, Princess of Autumn Leaves. Now, Cherubime, I want it to be Titanial. I just didn't have a Titanial to run in the deck, so this card can be Titanial. They're both level 8 plant monsters, just with varying effects, whether they be protection effects or just restricting your opponent, and also being able to use a special summon resource off of Cherubime as well. But Titanial having more of a negate option leaves us to a level 8 boss monster, which can easily be brought out with Lone Fire Blossom to rely on also. And then some one-ofs for the plant monsters include the 1 copy of Spore and the 1 copy of Lilyboria, having a plant target special summon option with Lilyboria being another level 8 monster, and Spore being able to be summoned from the graveyard, while also being able to go for some synchro plays as well. For the spells, we're running 2 copies of Rikka Yugioh. If you control a Rikka monster, you can set 1 Rikka spell or trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap card zone. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn, except for plant monsters. You can only use this effect once per turn, and once per turn, if you attribute a plant monster you control to activate a Rikka card or effect, you can tribute any 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, even if you do not control it. So being able to tribute an opponent's monster makes this a very, very good card in the deck, taking away less of your own resources, tributing your opponent's monsters, being able to get around some pesky monsters to your opponent by tributing them, just gets around a lot of restrictions that those monsters may have as well, and missing opportunities for your opponent to use those monsters since you tributed that monster away using your field spell. 2 copies also of Rikka Glamour, with this card being our go-to spell. When you activate this card, you can also tribute 1 plant monster to add 1 Rikka monster from your deck to your hand. Then if you tributed a monster when activated this card, add 1 plant monster with the original level as that Rikka monster, but a different name. So then this search power with Rikka Glamour, once again, it can also be set on the field with Rikka Yugioh, can be used to set up and add your Hellbore and your Snowdrop to your hand, giving you the 2 level 8 monsters off of this card, adding the 1 and then the same level, or vice versa, any 2 of the same Rikka monsters with the same level from your deck to your hand to then be able to summon out of the field for an Xyz play. Also 2 copies of Rikka Flurries. Lower numbers on all these just because they can be set up with the field spell. If a Rikka monster you control is tributed except during the damage step, you can make your opponent tribute 1 monster they control, their choice. You can use this effect of Rikka Flurries once per turn, and once per turn during your opponent's end phase, if you control a face-up non-plant monster, destroy this card. So you just need more or less, restrictions, but also being able to use this card to make your opponent just tribute a monster they control, and then take away more resources on top of the field spell as well, thanks to this continuous spell. I run 2 copies of Miracle Fertilizer. It's just another special summon option. If you didn't want to run this card, you could always put in a 3rd copy of Rikka Yugioh in this spot here, along with a copy of Terraforming to be able to search out the field spell. And for the one-ofs for these spells, 1 copy of Ready Fusion, 1 copy of Monster Reborn, and the 1/1-for-1. The Ready Fusion being able to grab our Rose Spectra of Doom from the extra deck as another level 6 plant monster to be able to use for our rank 6 Xyz play. And then for the traps, I run 2 copies of Rikka Tranquility. When you activate this card, you can also tribute 1 plant monster, special summon 1 Rikka monster from your graveyard in defense. Then if you tributed a monster when you activate this card, special summon 1 plant monster from your graveyard in defense, giving you 2 tributes, being able to also, tribute your opponent's cards if we use our Rikka field spell for that tribute. Then we're just getting 2 monsters thanks to our opponent's own tributed monster, and then using those 2 monsters for whatever extra deck play we may wish to go for. The 1 copy of Rikka Sheet. You target a face-up monster your opponent controls. Also, you contribute 1 plant monster. Players can activate that face-up monster's effect on the field of the turn if you tributed a monster when you activate this card, and take control of that monster until the end phase. So this could tribute an opponent's monster along with taking one of their other monsters. So Rikka Sheet can just, board wipe your opponent by also giving you those additional resources. We run the 1 copy of Rivalry of Warlords because the majority of the time we will just have plant monsters on the field, not really restricting us for anything else to do. And the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just a trap spot along with some of the other ones for more restriction for some of our opponent's monster effects. And then for the extra deck, I run 1 copy of Teardrop the Rikka Queen, 1 Kanzashi the Rikka Queen, and 1 Rikka Queen Strenna. All the different rank exceeds monsters to be able to go into with your options for your Teardrop the Rikka Queen. You can detach one from this card, target 1 monster on the field, tribute it. This is a quick effect if this card is a plant monster as material. You can only use this effect of Teardrop the Rikka Queen once per turn, and each time a monster is tributed, this card gains 200 attack. So just more tribute options for monsters on the field using this card, and then having special summon options for our Kanzashi the Rikka Queen, and then being able to detach 1 off of our Strenna to then target a plant monster or Rikka card in your graveyard and add to your hand, adding back more recycle power with that one also. We also run the 1 copy of number 38, Hope Harbinger, the 1 Bahamut Shark, and the 1 Totally Awesome, because we do have the Rikka monsters being water monsters. So on top of that, we can overlay 2 together to go into the Bahamut Shark, and then have a way to detach 2 Totally Awesome as well. The 1 copy of the Rose Spectra of Doom for the target for the Ready Fusion. And then for the Link monsters, 1 Area of the Water Charmer, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Relinquished Anima, and the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, with our Synchro monsters being 1 copy of Queen of Thorns, the 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, and then the 1 Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign. Just a variety of plant monster options with Black Rose Dragon and Queen of Thorns, with the Black Rose having the Banished Plant option, Field Spell Search with Ancient Fairy Dragon, and then just more or less the bigger boss monster with our Supreme Chen Ying. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I said, with some of our 3 of counts in the deck, being able to just take those additional cards from our deck, Rikka Petal can set up a lot of those plays. So then being able to use this card to take a Rikka monster from our deck, except for Petal, either add to our hand or send it to the graveyard. So then being able to have this card option, if you can send your Hellbore from the deck to the graveyard, having your tribute option for your Rikka Petal. This can summon out your Hellbore onto the field as well, which is good because then you can have your play off of your Rikka Petal be from that additional monster that you went for, or if you had your 1-for-1 in your hand and you sent another monster off of the summon, you then can have your normal summon for your Lone Fire Blossom to then grab the final rank 8 or level 8 monster to summon out, and then use the 2 monsters to be able to have your rank 8 Xyz play right there with that 1 Rikka play. If you have the field spell for your Rikka Konkon set up, you can activate this card. If you control Rikka monster, which can be the same Petal play we mentioned before, you can then set 1 Rikka spell or trap directly from your deck. So then you can set your Rikka spell, being your Rikka Glamour. Then when you activate this card, tributing the plant monster to add a Rikka monster from your deck to your hand. So then you can add your Hellbore, and then the additional one being your next go-to Rikka monster, being your Snowdrop Fairy, being able to tribute a plant monster, special summon with this card, 1 other plant from your hand. So with these monsters, you have to remember you need that plant resource for that additional tribute. Otherwise, you'll have to save the 1 monster in your field to go for that tribute as well. And then you're also locked into the plant summons for your Rikka plant as well. And then, or this play, you'll have either the option during your opponent's end phase to summon back the Rikka Petal, which could also be another way this card could be on the field, because then you could also just have your next monster be the plant monster to be able to tribute summon out, summoning out the additional plant monster to then use for the tribute of your 2 Rikka monsters also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, wanted to go for a pure variant of the deck. A lot of the decks you see just mix either the Sunvine option or the Sylvan engine or even the Aromaseraphy engine into these decks, but haven't really seen too many pure Rikka decks, being one of the overlooked decks from the Secret Slayers booster pack. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.